You ever scroll past a rifle and think, that's just a long gun? Well, today we're going past long. We're meeting three walking, talking, thundering, and metal case legends. These aren't just tools, they're stories welded into steel. A tiny caliber answer to impossibly long shots. A .5 caliber Rockstar that made too big to ignore a tactical asset. And a South African bruiser that's basically a portable cannon with manners. I'm gonna take you inside each rifle's personality, what it was built for, the weird little details you won't notice at first glance, and the myths that made them famous, with a little humor and a lot of perspective. Buckle up. By the end, you'll know why soldiers, collectors, and armchair historians whisper their names like rock stars. Let's meet the guns.
Imagine a ridge at dawn, mist curling over rocks, and a rifle that looks like it was designed by NASA engineers. That's the CheyTac M200 intervention. This isn't just a sniper rifle, it's a long-range poet with a PhD in physics. Its specialty? Precision over absurd distances. The M200 didn't arrive from a pop band audition. It was the result of people asking a very specific question. How do you keep hitting things when they're almost the size of a housefly from 2 kilometers? CheyTac, a small American firm, developed the platform around a custom long-range cartridge, the 408 CheyTac, engineered for stable supersonic flight and minimal drop. That translates to a rifle system that favors precision engineering, long, free-floating barrels, and optics that look like telescopes used by astronomers with commitment issues. It's not about rapid fire. It's about a single, theatrical, "did you see that?" moment. Caliber, .408 CheyTac. Small enough to be fast, big enough to deliver serious punch. Think of it as the Goldilocks round. Not too heavy, not too light. Just right for a 2-kilometer conversation with gravity. Effective range, 2,500 meters. Yep, 2.5 clicks away. You could watch a soccer game from that distance, and the ball would probably still move slower than your bullet. Barrel is 29 to 32 inches, free floating. The barrel is so carefully engineered that even a sneeze near the muzzle could ruin your shot. Kidding. But it's precise. Optics, astronomical quality telescopic sight. Basically, a telescope that politely asks the Earth to hold still. Weight, about 14.5 kilograms fully loaded. Heavy? Yes, but that's the kind of weight that screams stability and control. Where the M200 really shines is long-range accuracy. Because the round stays stable longer and the rifle is engineered for minute tolerances, shooters have used it to turn faraway shots, once considered science fiction, into headline acts. Think of a photographer with a telephoto lens capturing a hummingbird's heartbeat. That's the vibe. The M200's role is very specific. Pick a distant target, be patient, and let the physics do the rest. Which is to say, it's elegant, clinical, and a little bit smug. Snipers often talk about the perfect shot. CheyTac owners whisper about shots where the wind, the Earth's rotation, and even the coffee in their thermos all conspired against them, and they still hit it. Rumor has it the M200 inspired more bedtime stories among long-range shooters than horror movies. So, if the CheyTac M200 were a person, it would be a patient mathematician with a dark sense of humor, calm, precise, and able to make physics look like magic.
Enter the loud, brash cousin, the Barrett M82. If the CheyTac is a whispered poem, the Barrett is a brass band crashing through your living room. Meet the rock star of anti-materiel rifles. Ronnie Barrett, the name behind the company, chased a vision in the late 1970s-80s, make a long-range rifle that could also do serious material damage. Designed in the U.S., the Barrett chambered the 50 BMG, a round originally meant for heavy machine guns and early aircraft, and repackaged it into its shoulder-fired platform. The M82's birth helped blur the line between rifle and artillery in the most theatrical way. The Barrett's strength is blunt, reliable power. It isn't trying to be delicate, it's a take-no-prisoners tool, anti-materiel work, disabling vehicles or punching through light structures. That's why many militaries adopted versions of it, because sometimes you don't need pinpoint poetry, you need kaboom but controlled. Its semi-automatic action gives it a rhythm that feels almost musical when you watch it fire. Slow, heavy beats. Caliber: 50 BMG. The kind of round that makes small vehicles reconsider their life choices. Effective range: 1,800 meters, just shy of 2 kilometers. Still plenty to embarrass a light armored vehicle. Action: semi-automatic, so it can deliver a slow, rhythmic hammering that sounds almost musical. Weight: 14 kg unloaded, with recoil making it feel like a handshake from Thor. Respectful, but it doesn't mess around. Muzzle brake: iconic large brake. The barrel wears a tiny hat to politely redirect the thunder. The Barrett didn't stay an oddity for long. It turned up in movies, in headlines, and in debates. People loved and feared it in equal measure, a symbol of engineering bravado. There are stories of its use on the battlefield where crews would mount them on vehicles, use them for long-range interdiction, or simply keep one as a conversation piece with a lot of muzzle discipline. For gun fans, it's the kind of piece you point at the wall and say, "That one makes noise." Fun fact for the newbies: when you pick up a Barrett, your back will politely remind you that you've just embraced physics. It has personality, like a lumbering, well-dressed bouncer who sees trouble and politely asks it to leave. So the Barrett is about authority and presence. If the CheyTac is a surgeon's scalpel, the Barrett is the sledgehammer you keep next to the toolbox. Precise when you need it, but never shy about announcing itself.
Finally, the Denel NTW-20. Say that name out loud, and it sounds like machinery starting up. If the Barrett is a bouncer and the CheyTac a surgeon, the NTW-20 is a compact artillery piece. South African engineering that asks, what if we built a tiny cannon that a single operator could take into the field? Developed by Denel, a South African company, the NTW family was made to address a regional need. A rifle that could deal with vehicles and harden targets, but didn't require a full crew or vehicle. It came in large calibers, notably a 20mm option, that give it an energy profile closer to small automatic cannons than to typical infantry rifles. That's why this weapon sits somewhere between rifle and light artillery in everyone's mental catalog. The NTW-20 is built for impact. Its rounds bring energy, more than enough to disable vehicle systems, sensors, or fragile components at range. At the same time, Denel designed mounting and recoil management systems to keep it usable by a small team. The impression it gives standing on its tripod is of contained fury. It looks like it could rattle a small bridge if asked politely. Caliber options: 20 by 82 millimeters or 14 by 114 millimeters. Basically, choose your flavor of kaboom. Effective range: 1,500 to 2,000 meters. Long enough to intimidate, short enough to remind the operator to breathe. Tripod mounted, reduces recoil, keeps it usable by a small team. The NTW is the polite giant, brings the punch,
but asks for space. Weight, about 25 to 35 kilograms depending on variant. Heavy enough to respect, light enough for a few strong people to lug around. Purpose, anti-materiel. Vehicles, radar stations, light fortifications. If it moves and shouldn't, the NTW-20 politely corrects it. In deployments, weapons like the NTW-20 are tools of deterrence and escalation control. You can place one to deny an adversary certain uses of the battlefield, disable a vehicle, or take out an exposed radar without bringing full artillery into play. The people who work with these rifles talk about them as instruments for influence. You don't always need to fire to get the outcome. Another side of the story, technicians respect them. You can see the pride in a tech who eyeballs the breech of an NTW-20 and says, "That's clean engineering." So the NTW-20 rounds out our trio as the gentle giant, not elegant like the CheyTac nor flashy like the Barrett, but a brutalist solution to a practical problem. Provide heavy effect when you want to avoid calling in the big guns. In our little orchestra of rifles, it's the bass drum, slow, deep, and unforgettable.
We met a surgeon, a rock star, and a bass drum. 3 rifles with distinct personalities, each born from a problem someone decided to solve with metal and math. They tell stories about conflict, about engineering ingenuity, and about the strange ways humans convert physics into tools. If you enjoyed the trip, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which rifle felt like your favorite character and why. I'll read the best replies out loud in the next episode. Until then, stay curious, stay legal, and keep your questions coming.